5.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our conversation about Shirley, presented by The Future of Film is Female. And I want to wish everyone a very happy Pride. I'm Karen Coleman. I'm the founder of The Future of Film is Female, which is an organization that amplifies all women filmmakers through our grant, exhibition, and community building programming. And during this very challenging and strange time for film, we're excited that we get to continue to support women filmmakers with virtual programs such as tonight's talk. So I want to thank you all for being down for the virtual experience. And if you'd like to learn more about The Future of Film is Female, please visit our website, futureoffilmisfemale.com. You can read our mission statement, and we have a bunch of films that are streaming theatrically, like Shirley, as well as short films that are for free to view. So tonight, I'm thrilled that we get to present a conversation with Josephine Decker, who is an incredibly special filmmaker. And in February 2019, when we were screening her previous film, Madeline's Madeline, at MoMA, she mentioned to me that she was in the process of finishing her second film about Shirley Jackson. And now it's here, and it's brilliant. So it is my pleasure to introduce the director of Shirley, Josephine Decker, who will be in conversation with Shayana Fillmore, who is a New York-based film programmer. She is an avid supporter of women filmmakers, and Keanu Reeves, which is just natural.
He's also an avid supporter. He works with tons of women.
He does. He touches them appropriately. I am a big fan. So I will let you two take it over from here. And I want to thank you both for being a part of this. And I'm looking forward to your chat.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Oh my gosh. So, hi, how are you? How are you doing?
I'm great. Yeah, I'm doing great. And it's so nice to be like, oh yeah, it's Pride weekend. I mean, I wish that I was like, you know, I feel like we have a baby, so I live under a rock, and I'm like, it's Pride. Our movie has so many wonderfully Pride-ish aspects. Pride film.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway, it's exciting.
It feels like fate that like it just so happened that this was the day that worked out.
Yes.
And we'll definitely touch on that. How would you describe this film in 3 words?
Oh wow. Gosh. Well, it's so funny because I'm like, do you mean the experience I had directing it or the movie itself? Because sometimes when I think of the film, I'm like thinking of, okay, so the movie itself probably, why is this so hard? This is, I mean, 3 words, mystical? Is that, if that makes it sound a little like something, hopefully empowering.
Yes.
And complex.
Oof. Yes. I agree. My like when I first watched it, I think my 3 words would be like ring the alarm, like the Beyonce song, because I was so like, men or whatever.
Yes.
What is your favorite Shirley Jackson piece of work?
Well, we've always lived in the castle is probably my favorite of all of her writing. She's so, it's just like the most, for those who maybe aren't familiar with it, it's about this young girl. And at the beginning, her whole family has died of like a poisoning except for her sister. And there's sort of this like journey to figure out what happened. But also this kind of, she's sort of a misanthrope and hilarious and like kind of hates everyone who comes to their house who's not her sister. And anyway, it's a quite fun, bizarre, and really intense work. And I was like, it's fairy tale-ish, but it's super smart.
Yeah.
And I remember finishing it and being like, wow, I love this. I want to read everything Shirley Jackson wrote. I can't believe I only ever read The Lottery. And then like a week later, I got sent the script to make Shirley. And I was like, this is weird and cool. Great, I'm in.
That's actually what I was going to ask. Like, you were sent the script. It wasn't like, oh, I read this book and I like feel like we could, you know, do a spin on this book and adapt it. So Sarah's script was already sent to you. Did you, once you kind of like read it and it was all kind of like set in stone that you would direct it, did you have like did you make any like tweaks to the script or anything like that?
We did actually. Yeah, Sarah Gubbins, who's the writer, she's super collaborative and lovely and so funny. And we spent a lot of. I would always like I would be like, I'll bring something over for dinner, and then it would be like 5 uncooked potatoes, and then we would just like, she'd be like, all right, I'll make dinner. You can take your potatoes home if you want. Sometimes we did cook the potatoes, but then we would just sit down and talk for hours about the movie, about Shirley, about her writing. And I was, Sarah had already read almost all of her work, and I was kind of like on my journey to catch up, obviously, for the year before, between me getting on the project and then us actually shooting. I just like read, it was like Shirley all the time. So it was an exciting ride. And, one of the things I'm trying to think of what changed. There was a bit about the ending that we sort of were working on, and we were working a lot on Paula because that character was so complex, and it was sort of like, we knew that the challenge of the film was really how to bring that to life. And I think even in the edit, it was still like, how do we help people understand what's going on with this Paula character? But I remember that I had this idea that when Shirley's having this vision of Paula in the bathtub, that Paula actually walks into the bathroom with her. And that was something that wasn't in the script yet. And I just love that moment in the movie where you kind of like move from the dream space into Shirley's real space.
Yes.
So that character is getting more and more real.
Yes. Had you read the novel Shirley, before all of this?
No, I got into it once I got on the project. Yeah, exactly. I realized also I didn't ask how you are. I didn't get to ask how you are. How are you doing?
I'm alive. I'm like more alive. I'm feeling a lot better. Obviously, like there's a lot going on, which is kind of like a lot to weigh on, but it was nice to kind of be asked by Karen to like do this. And then I was like, oh, let me read the book. Let me rewatch the film. Cause I had watched it like maybe a week beforehand. And and I had kind of been avoiding films that demand that like would touch me and kind of like make me feel and like make me think. Because we're already doing a lot of thinking and a lot of feeling in a lot of different ways, especially new ways. And so like I started the film, being like, oh yeah, like I think we did like a Hulu party where like everybody could just kind of like,
oh, that's awesome. Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, ooh, wow, this is so fun and sexy. Ooh, wow, look at all this good acting. Wow, 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 wow. And then by the end, I was just like, oh, okay. Ugh, time to rewash my face because I was feeling a lot. But I'm okay. I'm good. I'm like happy we're doing this.
Yeah, I'm happy we're doing this. Yeah, I know, and I'm glad that you touched on, that there's a lot going on in the world, and I'm glad that our film was supposed to come out on June 5th, or did come out on June 5th, but we were sort of like, we were supposed to do all this press that week, and we were like, this does not feel like the time to be talking about this movie. And we wanted, I think everyone on the project was like, we want to give space and thoughtfulness to the movement that's happening. And so everyone kind of pivoted, and because I was like, I don't want to post on social media about this right now. And it's exciting that, obviously that the movement has gained so much momentum, and that we're really seeing a transformation. And I think it seems like the whole country is transforming in some way. So I'm grateful for that, and excited that we get, that we're here to talk about the film now, and that there is a moment to share about it, and that that movement is, I'm like, still continuing in great strength and with a lot of enthusiasm behind it.
Truly unprecedented.
Yes.
Which is exciting, but also crazy. So book Shirley is different from movie Shirley. Book Shirley being like the novel, but also like the way that one might interpret Shirley by reading her writing. So like with her writing and this sort of depiction in the book, how did you guys kind of come together on like figuring out what you wanted her to like be? Because she's like quite a force, and yeah.
You said like the difference between book Shirley meaning like Shirley the novel?
The novel, Shirley, yeah.
Yes. Okay, got it. You know, so much of that happened before I came on. Sarah had kind of been like, you know, beating her head against the book for a long time. And
yeah.
And I really tried to respond to what she had on the page. And
yeah.
And then and there was so much, she had so much subtle backstory that is obviously also in the book. And I, you know, so a lot of that is kind of Sarah, but I know that Sarah really worked to bring out Sarah, our writer, to bring out the eroticism, kind of like raise it up a level so that it wasn't just
subtext.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That she wanted to make it more overt. And I think that's a really exciting part of the film. I feel like when I watched the film down myself, and this is just speaking to Sarah, like when you're watching that relationship between these two women evolve, when the eroticism emerges, you're sort of like, wow, I didn't see that coming. And it just is like one more aspect of this unpredictable journey that they're on. And I really like kudos to Sarah for writing such a complex relationship and letting it go there, and then letting that not be like the whole point of the story, which I feel like it often is in movies. And
yes.
So yeah, she's a brilliant writer, and I feel blessed I got to work on this.
Their relationship is so like, and there is like the text, but there's also kind of like how you film their looks, how they're placed in certain scenes and all of that. Their relationship is so interesting because like in the book, it's more like, oh, from Rose's perspective, oh my goodness, this woman is fantastic, like, or just so interesting. I admire her so much. Like, and it kind of is taking like a sort of like mother figure kind of place, but it's still like a lot looser than that. And here there's this sort of this like kind of messed up sisterhood sort of thing where it feels like Rose is, you know, doesn't understand Shirley at first, but then realizes over time how similar they are. And that like every single, and like the things that happen to a lot of women. And so they feel, and they're both like very isolated people. Rose trying to find things to do in the house and in Shirley's house, which is like a whole like other thing in itself. So what do you, and so the erotic, sorry, I lost my train of thought. And so that moment when they're like on the porch, when, you know, Shirley kind of shrugs off her sort of like agoraphobia and like goes outside, that moment, it reminds me of like a lot of films that have like come out recently where like two women in like times where like that was not the thing. Or something that was like widely acceptable, kind of realize like, oh my goodness, like we could have so much freedom in if we decided to, if we could do this, but we're stuck here with these men. I don't know, like how would you describe their relationship?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's such a good way of putting it, is like we could have so much freedom. You know, that was, I feel like that's a recurring theme that sort of comes again and again through the film, is that revelation that they sort of have really because of each other. And I think there's this like, you know, I'm trying to think of the early ones, like there's the moment when Shirley, I think, first realizes that Rose understands something about Paula that Shirley hasn't even realized, which is like this desire to be seen by becoming invisible, kind of. And then there's when, you know, Shirley breaking down, you know, when she doesn't fit into this outfit, like when she can't fit into the skirt, and sort of like Rose coming in, sort of like helping her feel whole and beautiful, and like that accepting her body. And then obviously there's the eroticism, and I think there's all of these different ways that women sort of struggle with their self-image, and or maybe even self-destructive in certain ways, and that having another woman like to help you claw your way out of that is so powerful. And I think that happens again and again in the movie in very, very different ways. But you know, it's not something I have like it's just something really exciting to hear you say. Like freedom, so much is possible. And then obviously at the end of the film, it's sort of like this big, the potential biggest liberation is also maybe the most destructive. sort of like, how do you come up against that and then sort of like end your life or change your life sort of question. So yeah, there's a lot of stakes. There's a lot of stakes. And I mean, it's so interesting as an artist, it always feels like you're doing nothing, that you're just like, you're just trying to like banging your head against the wall and hoping that anything you do resonates. But then, for that individual life of the artist, this artist, Shirley, or of Rose, who is kind of like, I think she's an artist in her own way, a different pursuit.
But she's trying to sort of like, she feels like she has to fit, like, I am a writer, I am a this, I am a that, and doesn't understand that art is so much more fluid than that, and being an artist is whatever you want it to be.
Right. Exactly. She can find her own liberation, I guess. It seems like as well. So it's exciting to see these women sort of like grappling with that, and it is, I think this is a funny moment to think about your value as an artist or as a person. These are both women who are really not clear if they have any value as humans at different moments in the script. They just don't feel valuable or like their life matters. And I think that's something, honestly, a lot of people I'm talking to are struggling with right now during COVID. You're so isolated. You're the only, maybe your life matters to people here in the screen, but like, how does it matter in your, in your present tense, in your body? And so finding ways to validate that it's just funny to think about how that, I hope that's resonant to people right now, like
definitely
validating the each individual. Yeah,
definitely. I've had moments like early on, kind of like once I started like, okay, I think I can go on walks with my friends and stuff like that, kind of realizing like, okay, who am I like outside of my work? Like what makes me happy outside of like doing this? And it's such a weird thing, especially when you're just trying to like kind of climb ahead and like get to the next thing.
Yes.
So I feel that. Ooh,
yeah, exactly. We have to all sit with ourselves. Oh my God, it's so true. Well, that's good on you for taking that moment. It's hard to make the silence, sit in the stillness. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Do you, as like an artist, because in like this and like Madeline's Madeline, we're kind of focusing on characters, women who are like acutely aware of like how overwhelming the world is and are like very much affected by that. And I guess, and like the idea of like lost girls, which like Paula, brings Rose and like you said, and Shirley together, because like they all can relate and wonder like kind of what it would be like if like I wasn't here, or if, you know what I mean? So I'm wondering, is that something, I don't know how to articulate this, is that something that you sort of feel like you are constantly like grappling with like as an artist, or something that just like interests you, kind of like lost women kind of finding their way, if that makes sense? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's, yeah, it does. And I mean, I think one of the things that really, it's interesting to think of Madeline's Madeline in that way. And I haven't really, it's funny because I bring it comes up in some interviews, but I haven't thought about it like in that way in a long time. And just how the character of Madeline is sort of being swallowed in different ways by these women around her. Like her mom is like trying so hard to control things and keep things, a certain way, so that I think Madeline feels a bit like swallowed up and unable to make her own choices. And then with Evangeline, there's this like promise and possibility, and then she, then that also starts to seem like a lie, and like, I'm just going to take the things that you have, and then the you of them, like I'm not as concerned about. And I think, and both films obviously are about this kind of muse and muse author relationship, which is also maybe like a mentor mentee relationship, and that's that's such a complicated space. And it's ironic because I feel like I kind of feel like I found a mentor. Actually, well, in a way, but found mentors in both films. Like Miranda July has become a close friend. I mean, God, like looked up to her for so long, and she's so generous. And I feel like I found a mentor in a way through making that film, even though, you know, I feel like I didn't really, I'm like the like female mentors. I was craving them so badly in my 20s, but like, I don't know that I really found them, you know. I had a lot of awesome peers, but, you know, I was always like, you know, looking for someone to be my guide. And then for Shirley, obviously, I think this Rose and Shirley relationship is so, there's so many layers to it. And that mentor mentee thing gets kind of more and more complicated.
And Shirley and Stanley definitely have that. Like, he's like not just her husband, he's like her toxic manager.
Yes.
Literally checking in on the product to be like, all right, good job, my bride. And then
So
kind of moseying on.
It's really true. Well, gosh, and I mean, that's a good segue into talking about Michael Stuhlbarg, who's just a genius. What a sweet genius. Like, what a brilliant creator, and so generous. He rehearses so much, and so he brings so many ideas, and it's just really exciting, and has such a different process. He's like very, very like preparation based. He went to Juilliard, and then whereas like Lizzie is like very like, she's coming out of TV, like where they hand you like different script pages every day. You're like, oh, I learned all the lines, but now they're all different because it's like the day of shooting and they rewrote it yesterday, you know? So she's much more comfortable, like just thinking on her feet, and like, you know, getting the script in the morning and going into it and like really being spontaneous with her work. And so it's actually beautiful to see them work together, because they both have really refined their processes, but they're very different processes. And Odessa, our lead, oh my God, I love Odessa so much. She's such a sweet, amazing human, and so mature. She was 20 when we shot the movie. And I think Odessa plays Rose, for those who maybe don't know. And she just has it feels like she's so much older.
She's been here.
It was wild. And she really is, her insight into character is really impressive. I mean, I remember we would come up against things and sort of not know how to shoot them. And she was like, well, Rose, and then she would like, over the course of like 10 minutes, describe like the most clear, perfect, like theory on the internal life of Rose. And we were like, yes, that's right. Like, you clearly do your homework. So she's, really impressive. And then obviously we're blessed to work with Logan Lerman, who just made the best Fred and makes him so, like, I mean, obviously he's kind of a villain. He's written to be sort of a villain, but he never plays him that way. He plays him as just this like guy who's sort of like excited for all the opportunities, you know,
working hard, losing kind of sight of the bigger picture.
Yeah.
So, how do you, because watching your films, everything feels like, even like, obviously some scenes are a bit more placed close up. Here is like a really like important moment. And then other moments feel like you're sort of whirling around the room, as if like everyone's been sort of doing this like sort of dance or this like motion for like a bit, and we're kind of just like cutting into moments of that. How do you like to direct your actors? Do you just like let them go? Because everybody's, as you described, everybody's kind of coming from different backgrounds. And different approaches.
We did a little bit of warm-up stuff that was kind of based on some stuff I'd learned at Pig Iron Theater Company. They're a theater company based in Philly and they use sort of a version of viewpoints, which is a kind of famous theatrical technique. But I remember one of the first exercises we did together was like, I had these four leads like line up against a wall, and then they only could walk forwards and backwards, and we had to make a piece, and first it's silent and then you add music, but they have to make a piece where they just walk forwards and backwards, and the piece, what makes the piece good is only if they kind of like sync up with each other. So you have to, since you aren't going to do anything that's all that interesting if you're just moving forward and backwards, it's really about like, how are you connecting to the other people in the room, like how are you walking with them or walking away from them, and that kind of thing. And that was sort of a fun way to just get everyone sort of out of the heads of like, okay, I've got to prepare my character, and into like, oh, we're an ensemble. And this is an ensemble. These four characters are just like trapped in this house. This would be a good movie to shoot right now, honestly. It's very COVID friendly.
Yes.
I didn't think about that, man. If only.
It would have gotten real Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf
It's so
up in that
true.
house. Oh my goodness.
Oh my God. But we also did, when we were on set, I would really try to work with the actors a lot in rehearsal, like in the mornings. There's, I think there's a way, probably I don't know how anyone else works. I just know that people kept telling me your process is very unusual. Your process is very unusual. And I was like, I don't know what that means. I hope that's not a really bad thing. But I think what they mean is like, I don't come with like, we're going to get this shot and this shot and this shot and this shot, I come and I'm like, let's block the scene with the actors. Let's, so we spend a lot of time in the mornings with the actors because it's dialogue based. I mean, some scenes, obviously they're more sculpted and, it's you sort of like, you're like, okay, well, we need these kinds of setups. But for a lot of this, it's a dialogue based film and we hadn't really gotten any rehearsal time in advance. So it was about giving the actors the time in the space as it's decorated to really like figure out what's motivating different parts of the lines. There were a lot of like 5 or 6 page dialogue scenes. And it's just, you have to really make those interesting. You can't just sit 2 people on a couch and be like, talk, that's not going to be fun to watch.
No.
And so a lot of it was about like letting the actors make discoveries. And then for me, watching and reflecting back some of the things that felt the most meaty. And sometimes it was like making sure keeping people up far apart for certain really juicy moments so that there's like this connection over space that you're filling in. And
then really, really close when it matters.
Yes,
Stanley whispering in your ear something
naughty.
My God.
Oh, yes. So good. All of the crumbs on his face when he's like he kisses Rose that one time, like in the, or he's like, Stanley, call me Stanley. And then he's like, he was like, I have to put more crumbs in my face. And he would just like, he had this vision of like Stanley with all these, so he would like go and mush crumbs in his face before each take. He's such a dedicated
actor. He really like understands like how to make this man like the most sort of like pitiful, unhappy with himself, but won't admit it type of person, but still a person that's like believable and very real.
Yes.
Which makes their relationship odd and, sort of, oh, they're so smart and they're having like their own sort of smart people tiffs. This is literary talk.
Smart people tiffs. That's a great way of putting it.
I think we're getting close to the end. What is your favorite moment of the movie? It can be a moment, it can be a line, it can be something like an actor does, like something where when watching the film back, you're like, I did that. I really did that. That's a good moment.
Gosh, well, so many moments feel like that.
That's good.
Ironically, one moment that is not in the film, so I don't know if this is helpful at all, is we did this really amazing, crazy, like the dance of adultery sequence at the end of the film that was like this super surreal, slow motion kind of music video-y dance where all of this, it sort of shows up early in the film with the dream, the girls in the tree. But that was originally going to be like this whole like 2-minute dance sequence at the end of the film where like Fred is like doing like Butoh on the ground and Stanley is like vibrating. It was like total weird. That's not in the film. Okay. There's so many, it's funny because there's moments that shine in different ways. Mm-hmm. I think I would have to say, so we were shooting the ending of the film and I was really overwhelmed. It's like, you've come this long way and we shot the end really, it was like Lizzie's last day of shooting basically and she had to leave for like a flight. And so we were shooting the end of the film and I'm like, I don't know what to do. I like, cause we had shot listed, we only got to shot list maybe the first third of the film before we started to shoot. This is how timelines work, and so but we had done it really, really thoroughly. So we were like, well, we can choose kind of these different techniques for the rest of the film. But we get to the very end of the film, I was like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? We had this kind of vision for like the very last shot, but for that scene where Shirley is like waiting for Stanley to read her book. I was like, how are we going to do this? I don't know. And then, and Sterla was like, well, I have to set up something. What do I set up? And I was like, well, let's just start with Lizzie's close up and I'll just keep thinking, I don't know. I got to figure it out. I just don't know. And then, so we set up Lizzie's close up And I'm like sitting in the monitor being like, I'm an idiot. I'm not a director. I don't know how to do anything. And then we start that scene, and Lizzie's performance, I mean, that's the close-up that is the end of the film. I just remember like crying and being like, oh my God. And that's just that moment where you're like, trust your collaborators, you know, and trust, because what she can do any time is pretty spectacular. I feel like what she did in that final scene was just so gets at the root of everything that the film is about and is setting up. Her feelings about her book, and her feelings about this girl, and her feelings about herself, really. And that is probably the most magic moment, I think, yeah, to me.
That was literally my favorite moment. I like rewatched it today, and I was like, yeah. Especially since, you know, there is so much like movement and noise and music and so much going on. And to just have her sitting there and everything that we've seen is just sort of playing back for her. And she's thinking about it and kind of putting it to the side, but it's hard, and kind of going back to life before they arrived, and how difficult that's going to be. Ugh. Oh my goodness. Absolutely A+. And she has, you know, just such an understanding of the dialogue and stillness and all of that. I'm glad that we like agree. That's crazy. That must mean it is like literally like a moment.
Yeah, it really is. It's powerful. She's amazing. I feel so blessed I got to work with her and with everyone, honestly. Every department head, Sterla, our DP, Amala, our costume designer, Sue Chan, our production designer, and then this incredible cast. Like, wow, just it's hard to make a bad movie when you have that many good people working on it.
Yeah.
And our editors, I never call them out. It's funny because I feel like the editors are a part of me. We spent like so long together in the editing, but David Barker and Darren Navarro, they're amazing, and they did such a great job making this beautiful movie.
It really is like such a, I mean, obviously film is a collaborative medium, but it really is like this, just such a solid like piece.
Yes.
This might be a dumb question, but you've put this movie out, it's out, times are a little weird. So anything that was kind of down the line production wise is like obviously halted for everybody, and except for some brave people who are willing to mask up and do it. Is there anything you're working on? Anything? And I know you also just had a child.
Oh yeah, thanks for saying that. Well, I also want you to answer that question. I want to know what's next for you. So I'm supposed to make a movie called The Sky is Everywhere. It's a young adult film, and it's such a sweet, and this great writer, Jandy Nelson, wrote it, and based on a book that she wrote, and then we're casting right now, and it was supposed to go this summer. Knock on wood, you know, it goes in the fall, please, you know, God, but it's not the most COVID friendly. So like, we'll see, fingers are crossed. Yeah. And then, but you know, Elizabeth Moss really wants to start a Shirley franchise, make like 10 Shirley Jackson movies and play Shirley and all, which would be amazing. So I hope that actually comes to fruition. I would love to see that.
Her a check right now. Let her do it.
I know, right? Yeah. What about you? What's next for you? What are you up to next?
It's weird because obviously, like working in programming, we can't really do anything until we have a place to screen things. And it's a weird thing because, like, obviously, I'd love to get back to work, even though a part of me feels like, you know how you feel like you're always sort of like, you should be like doing something productive. You should be like doing something that can like make your like career better. Like this is the perfect time to watch a bunch of movies and like, you know, expand your repertoire and see, like, check out weird things that will be perfect once we can kind of open up and, you know, give it that retrospective like glow or whatever. Yeah. But it's just been so hard because like, obviously I love movies, but it's, but when movies remind you of work, you're kind of just like, ugh,
Yeah.
no. And so I didn't watch movies for a while. And now I'm kind of just in a place where I just hope everybody's safe. I don't want to
Yes.
have to go back to work and like worry about people not being safe. That's like crazy. And no matter how much I love something, I don't think that that is worth it. Like,
Yeah.
movies will be okay. We'll figure it out. Money's not real. Like, we'll figure it out. And I just think we'll probably be missing something if we're, you know, working at like a 25% capacity or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm also not looking forward to people making their quarantine art about quarantine.
I know. I'm
Be bad.
yeah. Right. I hope it might be really soulful, you know, that kind of deep self-reckoning that is going on. I hope that will turn out some really fascinating works, but it is true that the budgets are going to be really, well, there's not going to be like any like, I don't think James Bond is going to have any soulful revelations, but I think hopefully there'll be some really awesome, like, you know, doc fiction hybrids or something that emerge that are and yeah, very interesting. Who knows?
Oh my goodness. I'm very excited to hear you're working on like a YA thing. I think that's kind of what like the genre like me, but I think people sort of like turn their nose up on things that are young adult because they think it's for babies, even though it's not. Like even in cartoons are for adults, and like everything can like mean something and like have a lot of depth. So that's going to be
I hope
so
it's
exciting.
A little Amelie-ish. I really want it to be like feel like that. So we'll see. I mean, I don't know. Of course, I say that now, and then who knows? Like I always think, I thought Shirley was going to feel very Hitchcock, and it feels nothing at all like a Hitchcock movie. It's just like, but you know, that's how it goes. You kind of have like something in mind, and then you make the thing, and then you're like, oh, we made something very different, and that you go with your instincts, you know. But those influences are wonderful to have around.
And it's nice that your films, no matter what, like you're kind of having what you're kind of hoping, like to have like a Hitchcock influence or like an Amelie influence. I think they're all very uniquely you. I kind of like know what to expect. I kind of already know to like be like wowed by it. I was very stressed watching Madeline. I had like a back full of sweat.
Wow.
I was stressed. It was, but.
Do you have an acting history?
I went to acting conservatory after college, after high school. So I like that's why I was
like lived that almost. I mean, a lot of my acting friends are like, it's crazy how they steal your life in acting school.
That scene in Madeline's Madeline where they're talking about like the optics of the situation of like this white woman using this like black girl's like very personal story because it would sell really well is so insane, because I think those are sort of the conversations people need to have is like, oh, well, why am I doing this sort of thing? Why am I attracted to this sort of thing? Especially in performance and film. Ugh. Oh my goodness.
There's a lot to think about. I know. Well, I feel blessed on that movie. I mean, it's been what a special moment we're living through. Like, I'm just so glad that the entire country's attention is on the movement for Black lives. And I mean, that movie, it's so funny because I made all the mistakes that you could possibly make, you know, but then hopefully learned. and that was obviously what the movie was about, was kind of like process of growth and learning, and how do you have more awareness of the ridiculous things that you're doing, and and I think art, you know, it's such we are doing a thing where I think, you know, I live in LA, and in California, it's a super liberal town, and I think there's so many subtle layers of exploitation and prejudice that are floating around, even with really, really liberal people. And I'm just glad that we have this moment to kind of like really look deeply at ourselves. And and I feel like I learned so much of Madeline's Madeline. I have so much more to learn, and that that group of actors, thank you. That group of actors that I made that film with taught me so much, and were so generous with their time, and in ways that I'm sure at times were really exhausting, and they were really like thoughtful in the ways that I just feel like blessed that I got to learn from that group of people. And it's that film is really special to me, just because I think there was so much I did so much growing, and because it was so hard in such a specific way, because it's so collaborative. It's like the more collaborative something is, I think the harder, and so much more like there's such a resonance to then the feeling that you have about the project later, which is like, yeah, that changed my life. Yeah.
So did you feel sort of nervous coming into something that's, a bit more level up? Now you've got like Oscar nominated actors and Percy Jackson kind of coming together to make a film about a very famous writer. Did you kind of, was there a different sort of nervousness kind of going into that?
Yeah, there was, and it was different. And, and it's funny because I hadn't realized, like, I never thought of Madeline as like having a bunch of rehearsal time, because we didn't rehearse the film that much before we shot it. We had like maybe like 4 days of rehearsals before we shot, and we only had a day and a half for Shirley, which was crazy. But we had like 2 years of getting to know each other. And for me and Helena, the lead of Madeline, we had all this like this long time to connect and to really know each other, and to mess up and to make up and to develop so much trust. And so, and I think that kind of level of trust, and that going through an experience where, because you do as collaborators, especially on, I think every movie, it's so intense that you're, when you kind of like go deep into something like that, you're bound to make mistakes, and you're bound to piss people off. And I think it's exciting when you get to kind of get all that out of before you start shooting. Because when you have to do it on the shoot, it's a lot more stressful. So it was definitely stressful, and Shirley, because we had to do that. We had to like meet each other, and like I had to like do the wrong thing or say the wrong thing, or like not know exactly what I was doing and then cry. and that was just like happening in front of everyone. And so, but also it's still a beautiful process. And in a weird way, like in a certain way, very, very much easier emotionally to make Shirley, because it's the script. I didn't write it. I wasn't collaborating with a ton of people to write it. I collaborated with Sarah Gubbins, the amazing writer, to work on Shirley. But so in a certain way easier, but also in some ways it was really, I don't know that there's anything quite like making work when you develop it with actors, when the actors are writing it with you, and there's something really like nice, and it's definitely a relief to work on a film like Shirley, where there's a really strong script, and you just you have to try to like really hit the beats and make sure you do a good job, rather than inventing everything as you go. Although I do really love inventing. So, yeah.
Oh my goodness. So
thanks for asking.
Of course. And also like big shout out to crying as a part of the process. I love to cry.
Well said.
And thank you for making me cry watching this movie. That is our time. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to chat with me. And thank you to Neon and Karen and The Future of Film is Female. And thank you so much. Oh my gosh, this is so exciting.
Oh, it's such a blessing. And thank you so much, Hannah, for like all the preparation and thoughtful questions. And it's really nice to just get to meet you here. I really appreciate you being here and taking the time to share the film with this audience. Thanks, audience, who we're out there. It's so exciting to get to, to pretend like the film is like touring.
Yes.
This is like the most exciting adventure I've had in a while, is like going to your cinema.
Yes.
So yeah.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Josephine.
Thanks. All right. Talk to you soon.
Yeah. See you around.
All right. Bye.